What if I told you that in week 2 of the Bahrain tests Ferrari not only found speed, but a legal loophole that could force the FIA to change the regulations before the season starts? Because what Lewis Hamilton did on those Sakhir straights was not activate a more powerful DRS. It was something much more radical. A rear wing that rotates to almost inverted positions, that erases the drag as if the car stopped resisting the air. And that, according to the literal reading of the regulations, is completely legal. But here comes the bomb. Frédéric Vasseur not only defended the solution. He sent a direct message to the FIA: if it is written, we are going to use it. And we won't accept them changing the rules after we've spent months developing it. The question is uncomfortable. Are we facing a technical genius that redefines active aero, or a regulatory loophole that the FIA will be forced to close immediately? In the second week of testing in Bahrain, we were not seeing simple long runs or routine aerodynamic correlation programs. We were witnessing the exact moment in which Ferrari decided to show a letter that he had been silently preparing for months. While most teams continued to work on fine adjustments, variable fuel loads and discrete simulations, Lewis Hamilton's SF-26 began to show straight-line behavior that did not match what the rest were seeing in their own data. It wasn't just a visual sensation. It wasn't just a slow-motion impression. It was a tangible difference in top speed and, above all, in efficiency. The key was the active rear wing. We are not talking about a more aggressive DRS. We are not talking about a conventional flap opening. What Ferrari brought to Bahrain was an extreme reinterpretation of the active aero regulations. In straight mode, the upper flap rotated to positions close to complete inversion, practically as if the profile worked in reverse, radically canceling resistance. And here is the fundamental point. The regulation does not specify that the wing must maintain a certain orientation when it is in open mode. It only defines curve mode and straight mode states, structural limits and allowed zones. Ferrari did not break any written line. He simply took the literality of the text to the physical limit. During that second week in Sakhir, data began to leak into the paddock. There was talk of gains of between 10 and 12 kilometers per hour in certain areas of the straight when the system was activated. But the real impact wasn't just in the top speed. I was into what that meant for energy management. If you reduce drag so aggressively, you need less electrical deployment to achieve the same speed. This means saving battery power to defend or attack at other points on the circuit. It involves completely changing the strategic map of the car. It involves altering the competitive balance before the championship even begins. It didn't take long for rival engineers to review recordings, enlarge images, and study the transitions of the flap when it returned to curve mode. Because another key detail was the complete rotation in the high load return. It was not a partial opening and soft return. It was a sophisticated mechanical movement that transformed the aerodynamic behavior between phases completely. That requires structural control, hydraulic or electronic precision, and above all, absolute confidence that FIA verifications will not find a weak point. It is in this context where Frédéric Vasseur understands that silence is not the best strategy. Because when a team finds something like this, there are two paths. Hide it until the first race or take a political position before external pressure forces a regulatory review. And Ferrari chose the second. Vasseur did not come out to ask permission. He went out to mark territory. The message was clear. We have worked within the regulations, we have invested resources, and we will not accept the rule being reinterpreted simply because others did not see it coming. This is where the real conflict of Act 1 begins. It's not technical. It is institutional. The FIA is left in an awkward position. If you intervene too soon, it will appear that you are responding to pressure from rivals. If you do not intervene, you legitimize an interpretation that can open the door to even more radical solutions. And in the middle is Ferrari, sending an unmistakable signal. Aggressive innovation remains part of the DNA of Formula One, and if the regulations leave a loophole, Maranello will turn it into a highway. What happened in that week 2 in Bahrain was not a simple test experiment. It was the first strategic battle of the year. A battle that was not fought wheel by wheel, but word by word, line by line of the regulations. And the most interesting thing is that we are just seeing the beginning. Because when an innovation makes the paddock nervous even before the first race, it means that it is not a minor detail. It means it can upset the balance of power. In the second week of testing in Bahrain, the noise was no longer technical, it was political. What started as a curious observation on the Sakhir straights quickly turned into an awkward conversation in the motorhomes. Because when rival engineers began to cross-reference GPS data, reference speeds and energy deployments, they understood that this was not a simple optimization. It was a structural advantage if the FIA did not intervene. This is where Act 2 takes shape, the reaction of the paddock and the silent clash between Ferrari and the rest. As the days of that week 2 in Bahrain progressed, the cameras captured something very specific. In straight-line mode, the rear wing flap on Hamilton's car not only reduced drag, it seemed to disappear aerodynamically. The extreme rotation practically nullified the drag-generating profile, and that translated into a sustained gain in top speed without the need to squeeze the battery to the maximum. This has a direct consequence that many hobbyists overlook. If you don't need to deploy all the electrical energy to reach the target speed, you can redistribute that energy strategically. That changes the overtaking, change the defense, change the pace of the race. Rival teams began to pressure indirectly, not publicly, but yes, through technical consultations. Because the point of conflict was not whether the wing rotated. The regulations allow a low resistance state. The conflict was how much it could rotate and how the orientation of the profile should be interpreted. Should a wing continue to function as a wing even in open mode? Or can it become something completely different as long as it respects the defined dimensions and states? Ferrari clung to literality. If the text does not limit the exact angular orientation, then there is no violation. And there Vasseur plays his smartest card. Anticipate the possible technical directive. By launching his message in the middle of week 2 of Bahrain, he does not wait for the FIA to announce anything. It positions itself before. Install the narrative that this is innovation, not cheating. And it forces the federation to move with extreme caution. Because if the FIA issues a clarification limiting rotation, it would be implicitly acknowledging that the regulations were incomplete. And that opens up another even more delicate debate. Can you modify the interpretation after a team has legally developed a solution under the current text? If you do it too soon, you will appear to be protecting others. If you don't, Ferrari could start the season with a decisive advantage on the straights. And there is something even deeper. This concept does not only affect Ferrari. If it stays legal, other teams will try to replicate it. But it's not as simple as copying a rotation angle. It involves redesigning anchors, structural loads, weight distribution, and even active system control software. It is not a last-minute patch. It is a change of philosophy. That means that even if the FIA does not intervene, the immediate effect is that Ferrari wins time. Time that is worth gold in Formula One. During those days in Bahrain, a difference was also noticed in the body language of the Italian team. It was not excessive euphoria. It was contained confidence. When a team doubts the legality of something, they usually hide it. Ferrari did not hide it. He let it be seen. And that is a powerful signal. Because it shows that internally they are convinced that the regulations support them. Here the drama escalates. We are no longer just talking about a wing. We are talking about a precedent. If this interpretation passes, the era of active aero could become much more extreme than the FIA imagined. The limits would stop being geometric and would become purely textual. And in that war of interpretation, Ferrari historically knows how to play. After the firm positioning of Frédéric Vasseur and the silent pressure from the rest of the paddock, the ball remains in the federation's court. And here the scenario becomes delicate. If the FIA decides to issue a technical directive before the start of the championship, explicitly limiting the range of rotation or the orientation of the flap in straight mode, the message will be clear. Ferrari's interpretation went beyond the spirit of the rule. But it would also send another equally strong message, that aggressively innovating within the text can be punished if it generates too much advantage. If, on the other hand, the FIA does not intervene and lets the SF-26 compete with that solution intact, the precedent will be enormous. Because other teams will soon push the limits even further. And then the regulation will cease to be a structural guide and become a semantic battlefield. Every comma, each verb, each definition of state will be exploited to the fullest. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.